Yo soy Penta El Zero Miedo.
Penta El Zero Miedo has made his debut on WWE, finally. And his debut was something to remember. I'm going to go through 5 reasons why I think this debut was absolutely perfect. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining me on the show. It's just me. My name is Amit. I am one half of the tag team that is Wrestling Mates. My partner, Jonathan, can't make it for this video, so I am running this one solo. And I want to talk to you guys about Penta's debut. He debuted this week on Raw, and wow, I was completely blown away by this debut. I was already super excited, and I had very high expectations for what the WWE were going to do for Penta. And yeah, they delivered. In fact, I think that they went beyond my expectations. This exceeded my expectations. So I'm going to go through 5 reasons as to why I think this was just amazing, starting with number 1, Pentas Presentation.
It was the worst kept secret in the business.
So Penta, if you're familiar with him, then you sort of know that his look, his character, his gimmick is one that a lot of people really like, including myself. I love his look. Look, it's hard to distinguish yourself sometimes, or sometimes even as a gimmick wrestler, which you could sort of say he is because he's kind of a character wrestler. He's not just playing your standard wrestler. He's a luchador in himself. So that's part of his identity. And to differentiate yourself as a luchador is pretty difficult. You know, we have Rey Mysterio, the most iconic luchador of all time. But when you look at Penta, you see somebody that's just something else altogether. From his masks, from his costume, from his mannerisms and how he sort of, you know, the way he walks, the way he sort of, his vibe, his general aura, which is the, you know, fancy word being used these days. It's all just there. But then when you put the WWE product behind him with all that money, you can really sell somebody, because the WWE, one thing that they really differentiate themselves with amongst like the other competition is the fact that, yeah, they have money and they can package something into just this awesome, you know, performer. And that's what they did with Penta. So I was blown away by his presentation even before he stepped in the ring, even before he said a word. I was already like, I want to see what this guy can do. Perfect. They nailed it. His presentation was absolutely awesome, and I can't wait to see more of him. Number 2, location. So this is an interesting one. So, you know, I am not American, so I'm not 100% familiar with the diaspora across America. But from what I understand, like San Jose, where this Raw took place, was the perfect spot. I don't know, they could have had maybe a better spot, but in terms of comparing San Jose to LA, it feels like San Jose just fitted like with Penta's debut so much better. One, it seems like they had more diehard fans than the LA crowd. Also, that Netflix show, it just seemed like more of a, it almost felt like fan service rather than an actual episode of Raw. So this episode of Raw, where it was set in San Jose, obviously, you know, it looks like there's a strong Hispanic community there. So that obviously helps with somebody like Penta, who is originally from Mexico, whose first language is Spanish, and he cut a promo at the end, which is also something I loved, in Spanish. So he got a huge pop from the start when he debuted. As soon as he popped up, huge pop. But then when he started doing his promo as well, it just kept going. People were in on this match the whole way through, and part of that's also to do with the match. But I mean, this location was just perfect. I think San Jose has a lot of history as well with sort of Mexico. That also helped a lot, like, you know, just in terms of legacy and things like that. It's kind of nice for Penta to debut in a city which has such a close cultural tie to, you know, where he's from as well. So I love that connection. You know, when WWE does like this subtle little stuff, I'm not sure if this was intentional for San Jose to necessarily come after LA, but it worked out so well. So yeah, props on the WWE for holding back on having him on Raw on the Netflix debut, because I thought that was when he was going to debut. In fact, all of us thought that. But, you know, I think in hindsight, it worked out really well that he was not on the Netflix debut episode, because, yeah, looking at it, that show was just a completely different version of Raw, of the WWE, than what we got in this version on this episode of Raw. So, loved it. Absolutely great. Number 3, in-ring performance.
And stand top rope and delivers a stomp right.
So he was matched up against Chad Gable. Now, there is, if you are going to say there's any imperfections here, it's not from Penta's side. You could argue that Chad Gable is once again having to lose. Like, he's just been on a losing streak. Hard for him to build any credibility with such a great wrestler as losing so much. But I divert from that. this match was freaking insane. Like, this match was so much fun. I absolutely love this match. There was so much going on, and I could tell at the start, like, it was a little bit slow to get into it. Probably there was some nerves for Penta, being in front of such a huge audience. With the WWE being on such a big stage as the WWE, I could tell there was a bit of nervousness at the start. I think there was something people are saying, there was some minor botch. I didn't even notice it. As this match kept going, it really started to showcase everything that I love about luchador wrestling and about Penta in particular. Like, he's a hard-hitting wrestler. He's not really one of these, he's acrobatic, he's athletic as hell, but when he hits hard. And then when he has his moves, it's normally really, like, devastating. Like, I mean, one of his finishes, I think, is a package pile driver. That's what I've seen in Lucha Underground. And that's what I thought. I was wondering, how would this translate to the WWE? Because I know he was in AEW for quite some time, and AEW definitely has a more harder edge to it, I would say, in terms of their in-ring performances. They definitely let wrestlers do a lot more, devastating moves, and sometimes to their detriment as well, from what I feel. But in this case, with Penta, he's a hard-hitting wrestler. So how are you going to get that? How are you going to convert that message in the WWE, which is a bit softer? He's not going to do a pile driver. That's not even allowed there. But the fact he had the Mexican Destroyer, the variation there at the end, and also that move where he grabbed Chad Gable's arm and just snapped it, like, it was visceral. Like, he is somebody that is, going to hit you and going to make you feel the pain of wrestling. The other thing I loved was how well he sold. That moment when he was, I think Chad Gable grabbed his leg and smashed it against the ring post. He was selling the hell out of that leg. So I'm glad they gave the match time to breathe. It wasn't a squash match. It was a real wrestling match, and it showcased the beauty of wrestling in the ring, which Penta does so well and luchadors do so well as well. So again, all props. Chad Gable, I think probably one of the best people you could have put him against to start with. Because at the start, again, to go back to the last point, I thought it might be on Raw, Netflix with a tag team, which might have added some excitement. But seeing him just on his own shine with someone like Chad Gable, who's kind of like a mid-card, wrestler, just perfect. And yeah, you can do everything with Chad Gable. Like, he's so versatile. So, he has a perfect dance partner to start with. I don't know what they're going to do after this, but in terms of a debut, again, the in-ring was amazing. Number 4, not being trapped in the Latino Vortex.
We got what? Mask guy, hat guy, no hat guy.
So this is a funny one. I think when I heard that Penta was coming to the WWE, my first thought was LWO or Legado.
Escobar, sí.
That's what probably a lot of people thought. So I'm glad he has not ended up, at least to begin with, not with either of these factions. And that worked out well. I did think before, when they were going to have the tag team, Rey Mysterio's mystery partner was going to be Penta. But again, if we do that, then we are already starting the trend of, Latinos being stuck with Latinos and Penta being stuck with the LWO in that case. Now, I had originally, my prediction was he was going to turn heel straight away and just, turn against Rey Mysterio or something like that. But looking at it now and how over he was and how well his mask is going to sell, and there's a whole nother video I'm going to do talking about whether Penta is a heel or a face or what he's going to be like in the WWE. Looking at it now, he's going to start off as a face because he's going to sell a lot of product, and it's harder to sell a product when you are a heel. Most importantly, I'm happy he is not stuck in the Latino Vortex. He is going to have matches against people that are not Latinos. It's not going to be a Latino on Latino war. We are going to see him just be his own character and be in his own world. I mean, I'll be honest, I can't wait for him to have a match with Rey Mysterio, but I hope they hold back on that a little bit and let Penta just become his own character until the time is right, until it makes sense to logically put him against Rey Mysterio for the purposes of a story, not just because they're both, Latino. I would love that. Let's hope, keep our fingers crossed. It was a great start, so I'm happy he's not trapped in the Vortex to begin with. Number 5, the post-match promo.
The Penta New Era!
So this one has people divided, it seems like, on the backstage of WWE, as well as a lot of fans. I personally loved his promo that he cut at the end. Half of it was in English, half of it was in Spanish. Now, I don't mind that. Obviously, I can't understand Spanish, but you can tell when he's speaking Spanish, he's so much more confident. He's so much more clearer. It just seems like he's at peace when he's speaking Spanish. So for him to be able to speak Spanish and get that crowd reaction he got was just amazing. So I'm happy they let him cut a promo, even though it was a bit long. Look, the whole episode of Raw was only 2 hours and a half. So I didn't feel like I was like, getting impatient with his promo. I felt like, let this guy just breathe, let him give him his time. This is a debut. If he's ever going to speak on a promo, let it be now. And I'm happy it was live. This is obviously going to be a challenge going forward with any international wrestlers that don't speak English as, their first language. It's always going to be a bit difficult for them to get over because of the language barrier. But I'm happy, at least for this case, he was able to just, go out there, give this passionate promo about, him being in the WWE and how he's waited for this moment. The Penta era and all that. I loves all of it. And to just add, the cherry on top of all of that, his family in the front, like one of his, I think his daughter or maybe his niece or something like that, she was just in tears the entire time. So overwhelmed with emotion. So you can tell how big of a moment this was. And I like it when wrestling breaks out of, the world of wrestling and treats people like they're real. So when you see that real side of wrestling, it's pretty amazing. So yeah, overall, a fantastic debut. I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait to see what they do with Penta next.